This is a big day in Pennsylvania for our first responder community. I'm Representative Steve Berrar, Chairman of the House Veteran Affairs Committee and Emergency Preparedness. We're here this morning in observance of National Fire Prevention Month and to call attention to some legislation that will soon be introduced and voted on beginning this week. How would you feel if you had a fire or an accident or a life-threatening emergency and when you dialed 911, no one responded? This type of doomsday scenarios are not far-fetched, and I'll tell you why. We're witnessing an alarming trend and a sharp, steady decline in the number of people volunteering to serve as firefighters or emergency medical service providers. In the 1970s, there were about 300,000 volunteer firefighters in Pennsylvania. Today, there are fewer than 38,000. If this trend continues, there may be a day when no one is there to respond for your call for help. In Pennsylvania and nationwide, there has been a general decline in volunteerism. While many things have contributed to this trend, some of the causes are preventable. 2 years ago, a few of us in Pennsylvania's House and Senate set out to identify the specific cause of the decline in fire and EMS personnel in the Commonwealth. We assembled a bipartisan commission, the SR6 Commission, made up of every type of first responder group you can imagine. We held a series of hearings throughout the state, gathering information that would help us find legislative solutions to the problem. Now, we have quite a few of our members here were served on the SR6 Commission. Would you guys raise your hand? Let's give them a round of applause. They put 2 years of their life into the SR Commission and did an incredible job. But today we are pleased to announce that we have introduced a package of 23 bills to address many of the recommendations of the SR6 Commission. This legislation would address the well-being of our emergency personnel and provide incentives to help recruitment and maintain volunteer and career first responders. Our fire and EMS personnel routinely encounters high stress, often tragic situations. This leads many to depression, even suicide. In fact, each year, more police and emergency responders die at their own hand than in the line of duty. This needs to stop. A bill I am sponsoring defines post-traumatic stress injury and enables first responders who are suffering from post-traumatic stress stemming from a traumatic event to receive mental health benefits they need. Another bill would create a peer-to-peer mental wellness and stress management program for first responders. Because these volunteers are not paid for their work, many of the bills in this package would establish incentives to make it easier to volunteer and to commit their time and efforts to these crucial public service. Such incentives such as tuition assistance, college loan forgiveness, property tax credits, cash assistance, and length of service and online training for firefighters. Many fire companies and EMS providers are also strapped financially. In one example, a study from the Allegheny County EMS Council showed that 75% of its agencies reported financial losses, and only 3% of the agency expenses go towards capital purchases, such as vehicles and life-saving equipment. Their inability to purchase and maintain modern equipment could impede their ability to properly treat individuals as needed. What's worse is that many, if not most of them, other volunteer fire companies and EMS services across the state find themselves in similar circumstances. Our legislative package would provide much-needed relief. It would make it easier for municipal and career fire companies, as well as volunteer fire and EMS services, to access loans. It would also permit volunteer fire and EMS companies to hold on to grant awards for up to 5 years to enable them to save for larger projects and expensive equipment. It would increase surcharges and certain violations to enhance the EMS operating fund, authorize volunteer fire departments to recoup costs for material and equipment used in an emergency, and require insurance carriers to directly reimburse 911 dispatched ambulances to ensure that they receive the payment that they are due, which is an incredible problem. Just that issue alone would go a long way in helping our ambulance companies be more financially secure. That bill has been around here for probably 14 years, and hopefully this year we'll see it passed and signed into law. Many of these bills will be voted on this week and the weeks ahead of us. I encourage my House colleagues to support them all. My sincere thanks to the members of the SR6 Commission for their substantial work that it did to lay the groundwork for this legislation in this important day. Most of these members gave up a lot of their time to be part of the commission. Thank you to the members of my committee who are here today for their work in moving these bills forward. In the past over 2 weeks, we moved out 16 bills out of the House Veteran Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee.